This story, we're joined by Phephelaphi Dube, the constitutional law expert, coming to us live from the city of Cape Town, and she is in our Cape Town studios. Ms. Dube, thank you very much for your time. Just listening to Zola Majavu, who represents the pair, Lawrence Mrwebi and Nomgcobo Jiba, he appears to be saying that two processes going on at the same time may possibly be something that they might want to query here. Is the president on the right footing? Should he await the court outcome, or will this play against his strategy?
Well, I think we need to separate the issues that are at play here. And I think on the one hand, the president's strategy is really more of a political strategy. It's really a political strategy that's garnered to ensure that there's increased public confidence in the National Prosecuting Authority. Obviously, the president wants to be seen to be taking a strong stance against what a lot of people have perceived to be the NPA not acting impartially. Whereas on the other hand, obviously, the legal strategy is there to ensure that there's finality on the matter, and just the fact that the matter is probably going to be heard in the Constitutional Court means that, just bearing in mind that there have been a number of appeals on the same questions regarding the same issue, it just means that the legal matter will bring an end, will bring a finality to the questions that we've seen before us. How
likely is it that the two, Mrwebi and Jiba, how likely is it that they're going to succeed in keeping their jobs, given the history that they have relating to the former crime intelligence boss, Richard Mdluli?
Well, you're right in going back to the history, and I think we need to bear in mind that there have already been 4 such decisions which have really ensured, which have found that both Jiba and Mrwebi were wanting in their conduct, and that they acted unlawfully and violated the Constitution and violated various provisions of the National Prosecuting Authority Act. And even if we consider the latest Supreme Court of Appeal judgment itself, and if we consider the 2 judgments, both the majority judgment and the minority judgment, there is no dispute of fact about the fact that there was some questionable conduct on the part of Jiba and Mrwebi. In fact, the majority judgment itself says that Mrwebi's conduct was questionable, and that Mrwebi was confused, and that Jiba, on the other hand, was incompetent. And despite this finding of incompetence and confusion on the part of the majority judgment still felt that that didn't warrant them being struck off the role of advocates. So going forward, it's going to be quite almost a difficult task for both Mrwebi and Jiba to convince the Constitutional Court otherwise, given what the various courts have found about them, and given the various findings, and just really the questionable conduct on behalf of both Jiba and Mrwebi.
I know we're not there yet, but the matter is before the Constitutional Court now. That's where the General Counsel of the Bar has taken the matter. Are they likely to succeed at the Concourt, or is the Concourt likely to agree with the High Court decision?
Well, again, just looking at the facts that were before the Supreme Court of Appeal, it's interesting that obviously there really was no dispute of fact. And for the majority judgment in the Supreme Court of Appeal, they basically disagreed with the fact that the lower court, the Gauteng High Court, had relied on the adverse affidavits against Richard Mdluli. And basically the Supreme Court of Appeal had felt that just because even though there are all these allegations about Richard Mdluli, but these allegations hadn't been tested in court, and that the High Court was wrong in having placed such, really placed such, well, just the manner in which the High Court had considered these allegations against Richard Mdluli, that really, in that sense, the High Court had erred. But on the other hand, it's the same court that then concluded that both Mrwebi and Jiba were incompetent, and that they were confused as to their duties. I think those are quite strong sentiments that the Supreme Court of Appeal expressed. And going forward, it would be very difficult for the Constitutional Court to come to a different conclusion, just merely based on the facts that are at hand, based on the manner in which Mrwebi and Jiba conducted themselves.
On the face of it, Ms. Dube, it is very clear that the president is desperate to instill some credibility and, importantly, public trust in the NPA, given the kind of cases that we're going to see coming before courts, whether you talk state capture or other issues. How is the credibility and the trust of the NPA going to be restored when you have Shaun Abrahams still at the helm?
I think that much is quite apparent. I think especially if you consider the large number of cases, or rather the high-profile cases that the NPA has lost, and the fact that the NPA under Shaun Abrahams, at the helm of Shaun Abrahams, did not seem to distinguish itself from the various matters involving the former president Jacob Zuma. So, and the fact that in the most recent cases we've seen the NPA losing very high-profile cases in the state of capture report. So that on its own means that there is really an impelling reason for the president to seek to clean up the National Prosecuting Authority and to once again hold up the National Prosecuting Authority as a credible body, as a body that's capable of rooting out crime in South Africa, and again as a body that's capable of acting without fear or favor. Because right now the biggest consideration concerning the NPA appears to be the fact that the NPA is highly politicized, and because it's highly politicized, it's incapable of acting impartially.
Would Vusi Pikoli be the man to restore that credibility?
Well, of course, it is important to find individuals to lead the National Prosecuting Authority who are obviously fit and proper, but not just that, individuals who have proven themselves. But as to whether Vusi Pikoli is the man for the job, I'm sure there are other individuals within the National Prosecuting Authority who have not been as mired in the political in the political scheme. And I think in that sense, Vusi Pikoli coming into that office brings with it a lot of questions, just bearing in mind the circumstances in which he left the office. So I think it is important for there to be a new injection of new blood in the National Prosecuting Authority, just so that there can be an obvious show that the National Prosecuting Authority is under new leadership and is under new considerations.
Phephelaphi Dube, thank you very much for your time. Phephelaphi Dube is a constitutional law